Making maple syrup in New York State. Why make maple syrup? Well, because it tastes great. It's a natural sweetener. And just looking at these pictures makes me real hungry for some maple in my breakfast. Just where does it come from? And how is it made? Let's take a few minutes and take a look at that question. To see that, we need to visit the forest. A forest used to make maple syrup is called a sugar bush. In the late winter to early spring, a small hole is drilled in a maple tree, and a maple spout is inserted, or tapped into the tree. If it's above freezing, sap will soon begin dripping from the spout into a bucket or into a tubing collection system. Don't worry about the tap holes. After the sap season, the tree grows over the hole, much like it grows over the scar of many branches it has lost over its lifetime. A bucket is hung on the spout, and a cover added to keep out rain and snow. Or the spout is plugged into a tubing system suspended in the woods to carry the sap to the sugar house. Tubing systems are made up of plastic tubing with many different fittings. Special tools are used to put the fittings into the tubing and to make a system that runs from the tap through the woods and into the sugar house. Here you can see the sap and some early morning ice of frozen sap moving through the tubing lines. The sap flowing through the tubing gets deeper and deeper as more and more spouts are added to the system. The sugar house is where sap is concentrated into syrup. Here you can see the steam coming from above the roof of the sugar house. Here you can see the sap entering the sugar house from several lines. Here you see the sap being released into a sap holding tank. From here, the sap can be sent directly into the evaporator for boiling, or sent to an energy-saving device called a reverse osmosis machine. This machine removes between 1/2 and 7/8 of the water from the sap before it goes to the evaporator. Concentrated sap coming from the reverse osmosis machine looks a lot like the sap that went in, but it is much sweeter, and it uses much less energy to boil into syrup. fresh sap is between 1 and 4% sugar. Sap after the RO will be 5 to 20% sugar. Next, the sap is boiling to syrup, which is about 67% sugar. The evaporator or boiling pan is shiny clean. The boiling pan has a fire under it to boil more of the water out of the sap. Some maple producers boil with wood. Others use oil or natural gas. As you can see, the fire takes a lot of attention, making sure it never runs out of wood. It takes lots of boiling, but eventually the sap becomes syrup. To be sure, when the syrup is ready, it is often tested with a tool called a hydrometer. To use a hydrometer, a small cup is filled with syrup and the hydrometer is set in. The hydrometer will float at just the right level, showing when the sap has turned into syrup. Once it is syrup, it is filtered through a filter press and stored in stainless steel barrels, or put directly into retail containers. Syrup coming from the evaporator will vary in how dark it is. Early in the season, syrup is usually light amber color. Later in the season, as the weather gets warmer, syrup will usually be darker. Darker syrups have stronger flavor, but you should try a sample of syrups of different darkness to see which flavor you like better. Another tool used to check syrup sweetness is a refractometer. It can be used to check syrup whether it's hot or whether it's cold. Another tool, a grading kit, is used to determine if a syrup should be classified as light, medium, or dark amber. Syrup for retail sale is sold in a variety of containers of different sizes and looks. Some are especially great for gifts. The idea is to find a maple producer whose syrup you especially like and to buy your syrup there. Along with maple syrup, there is a variety of maple products available. The maple booth at the State Fair is a great place to see all of them in one place. Products include maple cream, made with 100% maple syrup, only cooked a little more, then cooled, then stirred, making that very delightful creamy texture. Maple candy, cooked even a little bit more than the maple cream, but still again 100% maple syrup. Maple-coated popcorn, maple ice cream, maple slushies, maple cotton, maple suckers, and maple soft drinks. Maple can also be used in a variety of recipes, and you can find many recipes at the New York State Maple Producers website at nysmaple.com. What you have seen so far is how most maple syrup is made in New York. But you don't have to have lots of maple trees and big equipment to make maple syrup. Many people make syrup in their own backyard with just a few trees and a small boiler. It all works about the same, just smaller. It's also very interesting to take a look back and see how sap has been collected in the past and made into syrup using some old-fashioned ways. These scenes from the Farmers Museum in Cooperstown lets us see and experience some of these interesting practices. If you have further questions about maple production or would like to access information about recipes, be sure to visit nysmaple.com. If you'd like to find a maple producer that lives near you, check out the New York State Maple Producers website at nysmaple.com. If you'd like to visit a sugar house, well, they are having an open house. Maple Weekend is a great time to do that. You can find information on Maple Weekend at mapleweekend.com.